When he thought the Democratic field of presidential candidates couldn't get any larger, another candidate is joining the race.
Colorado Senator Michael Bennet is one of more than 20 Democrats making a bid for 2020. He announced his candidacy earlier alongside our CBS This Morning colleagues.
My plan is to run for president. I appreciate your letting me come here to announce that.
And Senator Bennet is here with us now on CBSN. Welcome.
Thank you.
So congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, so the first question anybody's going to ask, why are you running for president?
I'm running because I've just finished writing a book about American politics, and my view of that is that if we don't fix it, we're going to be the first generation of Americans to leave less opportunity to people coming after us, and that's disgraceful. I'm the parent of 3 daughters. I used to be the superintendent of the Denver Public Schools. That was a school district that had 57% free and reduced lunch kids in it who were doing everything they could to try to achieve the goals their families had for them, yet too many of them, like too many kids all across the country, go to schools that don't support them. And that's just one dimension of the ways in which we're not focused on the things that are really going to drive economic opportunity and drive economic growth in this country that sustains everybody. As I said earlier, you know, my state has one of the most successful economies in America, Colorado. But still, the vast majority of people can't afford some combination of health care, housing, higher education, or early childhood education. The second thing I would say is that it is critically important for us to restore integrity to our government. We cannot go down this death spiral of rule breaking and of corruption and recrimination that isn't advancing the interests of our country and our place in the world. I think those are the two most important things.
We want to talk more about, I think, that last bit because it's very timely. But I want to ask you about your cancer diagnosis. In March, you had a successful surgery. You are running anyway.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you whether or not this journey has shaped your own policies now, because you're now coming in contact with the healthcare system in a way that most Americans hope that they don't have to, but many will.
So first of all, I feel like the luckiest guy in the world. I really do. I was diagnosed with cancer, and 5 weeks later, I was clear because of an operation and because of the successful test of my labs. And that's a miracle, you know, if you're somebody my age, and I just feel unbelievably lucky. On the other hand, when you're in that situation and you're in the hospital, you know what? One thing I didn't mention earlier, my daughter had an appendectomy a week after I had my cancer operation. So we had a week of being close up on the healthcare system. And in both cases, I thought to myself, what would this be like if you got a diagnosis of cancer and you didn't have insurance and you couldn't cover it? It cost $53,000, but insurance paid for almost all of that. Or what would have happened if you didn't have a primary care doctor, which so many Americans don't have, so that your cancer could be diagnosed? There was no sign of my cancer. I had no idea. If I had not had the primary care doctor check me out, you know, I might be standing here today never having known and getting sicker and sicker and sicker. So from that point of view, it makes me even angrier that Donald Trump has spent so much of his administration trying to take away people's health care. And he ran for office saying he was going to create a beautiful health care system. It was going to be cheaper, it was less expensive, more people would be covered. None of that was true. I mean, all he has done is try to repeal the Affordable Care Act and make it harder for people with pre-existing conditions. I now am one of those too, to get medical care and have insurance. We can surely do better than that.
You know, one of the challenges, though, you know, some of the other people running have talked about Medicare for all, but one of the challenges is always, how do you pay for this? What's your solution?
I don't have any idea how you would pay for that.
So you don't. So those candidates who are supporting that, you're not one
I
of
don't
those.
support that. I haven't supported that ever. And one reason I don't support it is that some people say it will cost $30 trillion. Another reason is it requires us to take insurance away from 180 million people who have it, 80% of whom like it. And I'll tell you this, having been through the experience that I was through with Kaiser, who's my insurance company, I'm actually feeling pretty good about what they've done for me and my daughter. That doesn't mean that everybody should want private insurance, which is why my suggestion has always been to create a true public option. Mine is called Medicare X. It would make available. You could choose, I could choose. If we wanted that public option for our families instead of private insurance, we could take it. We're not forcing people into it, but I would think millions of Americans would want the benefit of having a public option instead of their private insurance. we got to do a lot of other things too. We got to lower the prices of health care for our families. We got to reduce the price of drugs. We have to reduce what we're spending on health care as a country, and that's part of the reason why people worry about Medicare X, because what we're spending is already so high and so expensive compared to what other countries are consuming on health care. And by the way, you see it in our streets. You see it in our railroads. We can't invest in infrastructure. You see it in kids that are burdened by debt they have to pay back for the rest of their lives just because they went to college, because our healthcare system is sapping us of the ability to spend money on those things. So, look, we're going to have a great debate in this Democratic primary. Here's what I think in the end about healthcare. We got to figure out how to cover everybody. We need universal coverage. We got to drive the price down for the country and for families, and we got to maintain its quality and improve the quality. Those are the three things we need to do, and every single Democrat who's running wants to do a version of that. Donald Trump doesn't want to do any of that. He's proven that he's not interested in doing any of that. So that is the really clear choice from my vantage point, and why I think, you know, a Democrat's going to beat, one of the main reasons a Democrat's going to beat Donald Trump in this next election.
You voted against the nomination of William Barr as Attorney General of the United States. You watched his performance yesterday before your Senate colleagues. What did you make of it? There are a number of Democrats who are running for president who have called for him to resign. Some are even saying he should possibly be impeached. Where do you stand on that? I
agree he should resign. I worked at the Department of Justice. You know, and I know what the men and women who work in that department are like. They take an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States. These are among the most serious and committed patriots that I know. And to see the Attorney General of the United States behave not like the leader of the Justice Department, but like the president's criminal defense lawyer, is shameful. And the fact that he's lying to Congress and unwilling to go to the House to have a hearing.
You think he's lying to Congress?
I do, because he has mischaracterized the Mueller report. And I look forward to Mueller testifying in Congress. He's a very decent, honest man. People say that about him, except for the president, who says he's a Democrat, which isn't even true. But he, when the Attorney General put his little summary sheet on top of the report, he lied about what was in Mueller's report. Mueller said, look, you can't indict a sitting president, so I'm not going to accuse a sitting president of a crime, because it would be unfair to that sitting president. But I could clear the president if I wanted to, but I am not clearing the president because there's all this evidence of obstruction. So now what we need to do is have Congress do its work. We should have the unredacted Mueller report. We should have testimony by Mueller. And this is where, you know, having independent branches of government becomes so important, and where the rule of law is so important.